myself, we're running behind today. Had some technical difficulties trying to figure out how to stream live here um, on uh, on Drink Up, and it looks like we're probably not even live right now, Adam. Just to let you know, because it looks like the LinkedIn is actually getting ready to connect. So we're probably about 3 or 4 minutes behind. But welcome, Adam and Caress. I know you're out there and hiding. You can come on the screen if you want, so we can see it. No one else can see it, but don't like disappear. You can hang out with us for sure. So
Hmm.
there, there you go. We have an invisible person named Caress that's helping us out. But as always, maybe just to get started, just to call out some of our sponsors. First of all, thank you, Adam, for sponsoring the show with Alias Advising. Really appreciate it. And then Alicia Vargo, thanks for supporting us with Bev Assets. And then always, I've been going back and forth, as you know, with Jay. So he wants to do a Wednesday episode. Jay Williams, the founder of Freebird, and he wants to be in his truck. So he said in a couple weeks. So I tried to get him on
Perfect.
today. So Jay, for some reason you capture or catch this episode. We always every week we talk about Freebird, but I'm out of water. So this is actually an empty can. So I need refills, brother. Send them over this way. But we'll call you out every week. So welcome, Adam. So what's been going on this week?
Oh, thank you. This week has been a bit of a blur. We just got back from Guatemala Friday morning at like 1 a.m. Uh, so yeah, Bree and I were in Atitlan, Lake Atitlan, Guatemala for the last 10 days. Um, and then yeah, coming back to it's been I caught up on a little bit of email yesterday. I'm gonna do a little bit more today, and then take tomorrow to put work away before the week starts. But yeah, it's been just playing catch up and figuring out where people are at and going through all the things that we'll get into here in a bit. But that's been the last little bit for me. And I'll for anybody that's listening that works with me, everybody was very kind and did not text me or bother me at all while I was away.
I think I
Although I told
texted
them
you.
they could. Told them they could if stuff came up because I had service and nobody did. They were very nice, so thank you to those folks. And my emails are I've only got 66 emails left after being gone for like 8 days, so I'm
Wow.
pretty pleased with that. Yeah,
Wow.
but what about you? What's the last week or so been like for you? We haven't caught up. It's the first time I've talked to you in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know we were catching up maybe pre-episode here with a lot of things going on, but it's been, when you talk about being an entrepreneur, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's fun, right? So at
Yeah.
10 a.m., you can have seven alarm fire bells going off and the sky's falling, and at noon, life is really good. And then at midnight, it blows up again, and you start all over again in this world. But, we're here, we were talking about like how we can help, we're obviously you and I sweet spot is the beverage business, right? And we can help these beverage brands on their journey. And spend a lot of time this week with some founders and just talking about, where they're at, how they started, and what are the things they need to go to move forward. And I think Carras, you brought it up, and I know people can't see you, but talking about starting local, right? And I think I told you earlier, but someone's used the term we use all the time. He said, "Yeah, I need to go an inch wide and a mile deep." And I know you were somewhere out there applauding. You heard him say that through me because we're connected. And you're like, "Great job." So it's just really interesting. Everybody wants to, scale it and sell it in 3 to 5 years. And look, I think that's a great goal. You got to have a BHAG, right, for sure. But I think we just got to step back. Maybe I would love to have your point of view of how do you manage that expectation, with people that arrive at your door. And anybody out there, please, throw some things in the chat if you happen to capture us today.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and there's a comment. I'll bring it up here in a little bit from Ryan Halliman. Shout out to Ryan and now Roxbev, formerly Apex. They've finally wrapped up the name change, which I know has been a process for him. But he made a comment I'll get to later. I think I'll give an example, and it's not a beverage, so it's a little bit different. But there's a gentleman out there in the LinkedIn world named Dylan Jones, who's the CMO at Podium Nutrition, which is a great like whey protein, and they offer a whole bunch of stuff in the health and fitness space. But the reason I'm bringing him up is he's also the founder of a gum, like a chewing gum company, right? And he's literally just online orders. I mean, like, and he's been hyping this for like, I'm gonna call it 2 years, right? Like, he's been talking about it, he's been sharing posts about it, he's been sharing his struggles about it for 2 years, and then it's just online through his own website, and then I think through like Walmart.com. And the reason I bring him up is like, he's a CMO. He knows what he's doing. He's been in this game for a long time. He understands, you know, his conversions and all his numbers and A/B testing and all the things. I mean, the guy's a wizard. So if anybody was going to shoot for the moon and go, oh my God, I'm going to take on Trident tomorrow, right? You would think it'd be somebody with that level of experience.
Wow.
And yet, right, here he is being like, nope, just very focused, small. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And then we will grow incrementally. And I think that speaks volumes to the message you're trying to get at, Sam, which is like, for most people, that is the way, right? Unless you have mountains of money to burn and a substantial plan involved in burning it, right? Trying to go a million miles an hour right out of the gates is just a recipe for disaster most of the time.
Yeah, I was talking to a producer that was asking about our services, and they're in Los Angeles. I'll remain nameless, but it's an RTD, and it's actually a unicorn RTD, by the way. But the first question I asked, he goes, "Well, I'm thinking we want to expand into other markets." I'm like, "Well, do you have the income to do it?" And I shared the story about, beer I was working with here in the cities that was in 38 states. And the problem is every time the customer would order Bevmo or Total, they couldn't fill the order. They could fill part of it. They said, well, I have this flavor available this week, but come back in 4 weeks for the next flavor. Well, guess what? Total's like, wait a minute. I've made room for you on my shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It puts your product on the shelf, and I'm out of stock right now. And you're telling me to wait 4 weeks and to protect your position in the store. So guess what happened?
Mm-hmm. Oh, they got delisted for sure.
They got delisted, and the founder's like, well, why did we get delisted? I said, because your fulfillment rate's below 99%.
Right. Yeah.
Like if you can't fill the order when they come, they're not going to be there because the cost of an out of stock to a retailer is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars if you aggregate that across multiple stores and days.
Yeah.
They can't afford to be out of stock. It's a penny business. Anyway, so I went deep, but yeah, so I always say, what are your resources in order to support your expansion,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the discussion we have. And then what are you willing to put in the market to support your brand?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, look, I don't want to sound arrogant, so please don't take it that way. But Alicia Vargo can literally get a brand virtually in any market in distribution today and be selling tomorrow. She can. But do we want to do that is the question. Because can you support that distribution? Because no distributor is going to take on a brand unless that brand is proven. And there's a way to or support it, right? So there's a couple different ways. If you're proven, yeah, I'm going to take you on because you already have accounts selling, accounts purchasing. I have a guaranteed place where I can take the product from my warehouse to the store.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're supported, you have an opportunity to get in there too, because then you can, the distributor wants to know, hey, okay, what are you going to do to support the brand? Who's your competitive set? What resources are you going to bring to me in the market to help me sell the product? So things like tastings, activations, manpower. Drives every founder crazy. It's like every conversation I have is, why do I have to put people in a market? I'm already paying the distributor 20 to 30% margin to represent my brand. Do you have the answer of why they need to put people in a market? And do you think it's fair for the distributor to charge 20 to 30%? I do, but what's your opinion, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's so I posted something a while back, and I'll keep this brief about the number of inputs or things that like a warehouse employee is asked to pay attention to in a given day, right?
Right.
Conservatively, it's several hundred, right? More realistically, it's probably in the thousands per day, right? And I think for a lot of founders, yeah, I mean, myself included, right? We've all fallen into this trap personally, professionally, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
your brain can only process so much. And so, especially as consumers, because we're so consumer driven, like, we see product on the shelf at the store and we just think, oh, it's just there. Like, it's just there. I buy it. It's done. It's easy, right? And you don't realize how many different people had to touch like that can of Coke or that bag of chips or that cut of steak or whatever before it got to you buying it. And then you start to go back to, I mean, even in the case of something, I'll pick not a beverage, right? So this is going to be probably inaccurate. And there are probably people who could fill in even more than I'm going to guess, right? But you figure, okay, you've got the farmer who raised the cow. Well, you go before that, it's the people who provided the feed, and then there's the cow, and then there's the processing plant, and then there's cold storage, and then there's shit like, and at each one of those places, there's probably 3 or 4 people that are touching it, and so everybody in that process has to get paid, right? We had the guy on to talk about coffee, who's a great example of that, like whether it's the supply chain or the marketing or the sales or whatever, like every person in that process needs to get paid. And so you think about a distributor, and even within that niche of a distributor, and we talk about it all the time, distributors are not, they shouldn't be considered salespeople, right? If they are going out and doing selling for you as part of kind of the bag they have or whatever they're offering for that day, that's fantastic, and you should definitely take advantage of that. And if you can get it, it's a good gig, but you shouldn't default to that assumption, right? Especially as a new brand. And even without that, the logistical support, the storage support, the introductions to accounts if that happens. I mean, the list goes on, and I won't belabor the point, but I think 20 to 30% certainly realistic. And I think there's also costs on top of that that are reasonable and realistic and logical, but that because we have this, oh, I went and bought it at the store, it was $4, right? Like, we have this hyper short assumption, we forget everything that happens in between.
Yeah, I mean, I've sat in distribution for 10 years, and I was a supplier prior to that, and I thought I knew everything about the distributor until I was a distributor.
Sure.
And I got to tell you, please, 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 every founder, including myself, is understand the distributor is great at logistics, and they're going to get that product from that warehouse onto that store floor, on that shelf, on that back bar. And hopefully, if you give them the right information and you can get that product, shipped to the distributor, they're going to do their job. But you have to support them, right? And again, it goes back. Is the question is how much support do you have in order to go to distribution? It's about going an inch wide and a mile deep. I told a person I'm actually going out, and actually I think I'll mention Nico. Nico is out of New Jersey. So Nico, if you capture this or catch this episode, Copa, and he's done a great job. I think they'll do about 6,000 to 7,000 cases this year in New Jersey, and he built it an inch wide and a mile deep. And now he's being very strategic about his next approach. He wants to go to Florida next, possibly. But you know what we're doing is we're going to MBWA, and we're going to go talk to different beer wholesalers about his brand. And he's done a really good job. He's being very strategic about it. He wants to say, let's go to Florida and let's go to Tampa next, right? And he's not going to use our boots on the ground. He's going to be the boot on the ground. I'm like, great. As long as you have some type of support to go in the market and work the brand, because you're your own best salesperson anyway. Pull that product out of that distributor. Do the tastings and activations. I mean, this man, built 100 plus accounts in New Jersey, and his reorder rates are through the roof. I mean, that's like something like his biggest accounts are doing 8 to 10 cases a week, which is tremendous, right?
So, I want to be clear, cases a week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's not units, that's cases, which is insane. That's fantastic. Right?
Yeah. Granted, it's a small few. And here's a question for you, Adam.
Yeah.
You think it's better to get to spray the infield with massive distribution, or to go get quality distribution? Maybe explain to everybody the difference between massive distribution and quality distribution, and why it's important to get quality distribution for your product.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think of this in the same way, and we did get a question from Jeff, and I'm keeping an eye on the comments on LinkedIn, so I'm not going to forget about you guys if you're listening. I think about this in the same way I think about, the operational question of should I have multiple like multiple vendors for the same raw material, right? What I mean by that is, yes, the traditional, the prevailing logic is, I think Steve Dotigny, who we had on recently, said, two suppliers is one supplier is none, right? Which is fair, because if something
Right.
happens to somebody, you got to have a backup, right? And so when you think about that in the distribution space, like, yes, there is a level of value in having multiple distributors, but you also have to be incredibly transparent and vulnerable, humble, honest, whatever word you want to use, in your ability to give them business, to use a simple phrase, on either side, right? So if I have two vendors for caffeine, but I'm only producing enough that I only need to buy from one, I got to be honest with the second guy, like, hey, you're my backup, and I'm going to throw you some business every now and again, and
Yeah.
you know, if something changes or business grows, I'm going to come to you, and this is what I'm doing, and people will understand that. I think it's the same way again from the ops guy's perspective on the distribution side. Like, you start with one distributor, you have a super deep, intense, robust relationship with that distributor or with those end retail accounts. Maybe it's one, maybe it's five, maybe it's 10, but it's incredibly um, connected, right? Then maybe you've got a second distributor, but you don't go promise them the moon. You don't go say, hey, I'm going to give you all sorts of product and I'm going to move all sorts of product and you're going to open up completely different business or whatever. No, like, hey, I hope to grow to you, even if it's in maybe the same market in alcohol, but even if it's in a similar market or a nearby market or whatever, like, you are next on my list and I want to make sure that when I come to you, I'm not fucking around, right?
Yeah.
So I understand why people want to take that shotgun approach, but like with most things, right? Personally, professionally, whatever. Like, my wife and I talk about it all the time with her being in grad school. Like, my phrase is that feels like a hard left, right?
Yeah.
Trying to take on too much, like the trip we just went on. The day before we were leaving, so it's day before, and anybody who's ever gone on vacation, which is anybody who's fucking listening to this, has done the day before a vacation. We had scheduled a vet drop off for the dogs in the morning, just annual checkup. And I saw it on the calendar and I went, hey, that feels like a little much to get done all before we get on a plane, like, for 12 hours,
Yeah.
right? Like, maybe we should push that. And I think that same sort of logic is what a lot of brand owners miss because they think, oh, my product is so amazing. It's going to be the best in the world. Like, if I just push hard enough, it's not going to matter, which is just purely not true,
What's the
right?
thing you always hear? What's the most important thing? What's I guess I'm sure Robert and Jeff and Alicia and Ryan and others will chime in. But when do you celebrate success after you get distribution?
When you're moving 8 to 12 cases a week.
Reorders
Yeah.
and velocity.
Yeah.
That's when you celebrate getting the distribution. We can go. We always said this. I Breakthrough for 10 years. I'm like, hey, we did our job. We got you on the shelf, and we got into all these accounts because they would come in and like, why aren't you reordering for us? I'm like, because we got it in distribution, but it's not moving.
Yeah.
And we would say, look, we own the point where we get it on the shelf. You own the consumer.
Yeah. Totally.
We're the push. You're the pull.
100%.
And
We got to get to comments because people are
okay, go
blowing us
ahead.
up.
You
Okay,
take
so
you take it, buddy. Yeah, go ahead.
morning everybody. Morning to Robert Kogan, Jeff, Alicia. Who else? I think that's it for now, as far as the comments go. Anyway, so Jeff said, I'm gonna go back a minute. Brands need an allocated budget for marketing services, content creation, retail promotions, advertising dollars, trade shows, etc. Sam, at what point? Make sure I get this right. At what point that a potential enters into a discussion with you, do you ask what they have allocated and planned to help push customers into stores? At what point? So, at what point with a potential supplier brand, do you ask what they have allocated to help push customers into stores, or to help with that pull you were just mentioning?
Yeah. It starts from day one in the conversation. And Alicia, please chime in the comments. But we're learning really quick. And I mean no disrespect, but if a brand comes to us and they're just looking for us to get them in distribution and they don't have what Jeff just described,
Mm-hmm.
we're probably not the right stop. And they
Mm-hmm.
probably need to look in the mirror and say, wait a minute, if I'm not, if I can take my resources and be really focused in, Los Angeles, then
Mm-hmm.
just focus in Los Angeles and take advantage of those services like Jeff,
Mm-hmm.
where they, do the whole plan, or, Brandon Crockett is a good friend of ours, obviously, at
Mm-hmm.
Rogan Rye.
Mm-hmm.
But take advantage because they are the pull out of the store and have the plan. Now, don't spend, and sorry, Jeff, I'm about to say this. Don't spend all your money there, because the people that actually have to actually get the last mile, we need to help too. So it needs to be a collaboration. Hope you appreciate that, Jeff. But does that answer the question?
Oh, for sure. No, and I think knowing Jeff and Peter and the good folks at Brand Article, I think they would agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to Robert's comment here in a second, but I thought of something, I don't know, a few days ago that Jeff just reminded me of, and that's specifically to marketing, advertising, sales. Yeah, I'll call it the more front end sides of the business, right? So I live more on the back end, the ops, the supply chain, logistics. So the more front end sides of the business. Ryan at Rocks will appreciate this comment. I think we talk to a lot of people who think that because they use social media, or because they go to a store, or because they're comfortable talking to people. When we ask them, and this, Ryan and I, Sam, and I know you'll appreciate this, when we ask them, like, hey, what's your plan for social media, your online, your e-commerce, your so on and so forth, they go, well, I'll do it. And I mean this in the nicest way, but like, you telling me that you can do your own social media because you are a user of social media is like me telling you that I'm an HVAC technician because I use my own air conditioning.
Yeah.
That makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. I think Mike Levison must have gotten to you, because he basically says the same thing, right?
Totally. So Robert's comment slash question, he said, why are DSDs not labeled as feet on the street or no feet on the street? Some DSDs are different in each region. There are two distinct categories of DSD and a few other fringe categories, which is a fair question. Like, Sam, based on your experience, and it's a good question for me to know, like, are distributors, like, when you talk to them, are they pretty, is that kind of the first part of the conversation of them asking a brand or asking you, like, hey, we offer feet on the street or we don't, and let's make sure we're on the same page about that? Or do they expect the brand owner to bring it up?
So that's an interesting question. So, every wholesaler that's traditional three tier in our business, and then if you talk about the Coca-Colas of the world, they have
Mm-hmm.
salespeople. I
Mm-hmm.
would argue that the majority of them are order takers. And I mean no disrespect,
No, no,
but
no.
they are hardworking. They have great relationships, but they're trying to cover a big territory and talk to a lot of people. And so in there they have a lot of items in their bag. Unless and some distributors do have focused sales force with some big suppliers. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, they're going in from account to account to account, stop to stop to stop, person to person to person, and they have goals that are given to them from their distributor leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to slow down for any 5 minutes can be really difficult. I'm not saying that doesn't happens every day, because there's incentives that suppliers move in to the wholesaler to get focus, and there's large
Mm-hmm.
wholesalers that get that focus. So if you're bringing a brand to market, yes, a distributor in a traditional three-tier sense has a sales force, but there's a thing called pass-throughs. So they're three-tier compliant, but they don't have a sales force.
Okay.
They're just delivery, and they get that product, and they hold their warehouse and delivery and logistics. And they
Mm-hmm.
bring that product in, and when that product is sold, they go deliver it. And it's used for a couple different things. You might have gotten a nice national agreement with Costco, where Costco is going to take your product in every store. You possibly could use a pass-through or bump dock. And a lot of traditional three tiers will use pass-throughs and have three tier to do work like that. Or I'm a small product, and the distributor's like, you know what, I don't want to put my sales force towards it. I'll bring it in, but you need to bring people in the market to support the product. Is probably
Sure.
the difference. But even if it's traditional three tier, or it's the pass through. If I'm a small product, we talked about this with G4. Remember, he says that the
Hmm.
toll you have to pay to get over the bridge. I think
Hmm.
for almost 10 years, he paid the toll. No one paid attention to him.
Hmm.
They had to put people in the market to go build the brand. And he was in traditional, 3-tier distribution because part of the work is to actually go out there and seed the market like a farmer, right? Go
Hmm.
plant those seeds and then
Yeah.
also go water those places where you planted the seeds to help them grow.
Yeah.
Once it starts to grow, guess what? The distributor salesperson and the distributor are going to start to become interested in your brand.
Hmm.
And that might take a few years. It might take 6 months. It might take 5 years. I mean, Tito's, they just bought Lalo. Congratulations, Tito's.
Hmm.
And they're very, focused on their how they go to market with, a single spirit in a bottle. So Lalo's Blanco. It's all about the
Hmm.
tequila in the bottle, and Tito's is vodka, and it's about the vodka in the bottle, right? But Tito's, how long do you think it took Tito's to build his brand?
12 years.
Yeah, 10 plus years to actually get any type of attention. And I think they've been at it for 15 to 20 years. Don't hold
Sure.
me to the actual number. So they were not new overnight. And how do you think Tito's went to market?
I mean, obviously through distribution, and I'm gonna guess they started in, and I don't know this, but I'm gonna guess they started in either like a Texas or a Florida or like single state, maybe even single like population center, like major metro type situation.
Yeah, yeah, they went to market. They were very started in Texas and started to expand from Texas. But how do you think they supported the market?
I'm assuming they flooded it with call it feet on the street, call it salespeople, call it brand reps, whatever. But
Brokers and ambassadors.
yeah,
So brokers called on me in Minnesota. Eric Barlin, I think you may still be there, Eric, if you ever catch this, but a broker called on us, and then eventually Eric, as the VP of I don't know, Eric, if the Midwest or Central region, he started calling on us, right? But no, they invested in brokers, and the brokers went out in the market and they seeded the market.
yeah. So
That's
so
it's on
I
the brand.
gotta. So this is a great opportunity to ask Robert's question. Um, his first one, I think he's given us a little bit of rib, and he said, "When did you escape from the mental hospital for people who want to try to build a beverage brand?" For me, roughly 8 years ago. Um, for Sam, it's been a little bit longer. So the question two is, how much money do you have to invest for 2 to 3 years? And I don't think he means in total. For from your perspective, Sam, you know, on average, new brand, 2 to 3 years worth of what you just said, whether it's brokers, brand ambassadors, feet on the street, and let's say it's 2 to 3 years of like a single major metro. So let's frame the question with some parameters that's a little easier to answer, right? Single major metro, 2 years, new Alk brand. What's the number, generally speaking?
It's interesting. I had a conversation with my friend Nico, and I don't want to give his business plan away, so I'll be careful what I say here. So I'll just remain Nico. I'll take your name off. I'll strike the name or whatever. But I'd love to have a panel with founders that have founded brands, actually bring them
Yeah,
on, drink up
totally.
as the next step, and invite them to have that discussion because I'm guaranteeing you're going to get a varying degree of answers on that question because it
What's the range?
depends.
Like, if you had to put a range to it, what would it be? Low end to high end?
I'd say just to get started, your first year you're gonna need $500,000 in the bucket just to launch, and that's gonna have, thing because you have to do your like e-commerce, DTC, Jeff out there,
So
brand
just
arca.
so just a pair it because I'm curious, and if we pare it down, just distribution feet on the street costs for the first 2 years.
If you just did one market, let me do some calculations here real
Yeah,
quick.
no, this is
So,
great. It's a good number for me to have in my back pocket too when I'm talking to folks.
I would say if you did one person, one market, the person's probably going to cost you anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 a year for a fraction part of their time,
Hmm.
and then to support that person, you're probably going to spend another 30 to 100,000 supporting the business because you need to do tastings, you need to do samplings,
And
you
when
need
you
to maybe
say,
set.
so, this is fantastic, and I'm gonna expand on Robert's question. So, 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 years worth of what you just said, whether it's brokers, brand ambassadors, feet on the street, and let's say it's 2 to 3 years of like a single major metro. So let's frame the question with some parameters that's a little easier to answer, right? Single major metro, 2 years, new when you say 50 to 75 for piece of their time, their salary, generally speaking, that makes sense, right? When you say 30 to 100 grand for support, in addition to that, specific, I mean, do you mean support as in like, uh, uh, you know, fucking word I'm thinking of, flyers, handouts, shelf hangers, cooler clings, or what do you mean by support?
So I literally was doing this for one of our clients because we're getting ready to launch Texas with one of their products, right? At least I sent it off to you and Daniela. Let me know if I got it right. But I was literally trying to figure this out, right? So you look at the number of account, what is the opportunity in the market? So like in Texas, and I'm a fictitious number, but say the opportunity was 7,000 doors, right?
Okay.
And our client said, okay, tell me how many doors are, and then tell me how many doors you can open up in Texas, and then tell me the materials you need in order to support opening up those doors.
Mm-hmm.
I need a budget, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
things like, okay, so in this particular product, they actually need a place to put some of their cannabis products. And so we need some type of like a piece of point of sale that will go on a counter, and you
Mm-hmm.
have like your stuff on that, it circles or whatever. Well, that like units, probably my guesstimate is about $20. Okay.
Sure.
So I broke that down. Then, okay, now I have that. Where legal, we want to sample that, right? So we want to put samples in reps' hands to go to those spots. Like, hey, Adam, I have this product. I'm going to give this to you to try.
Mm-hmm.
Open it up. Well, there's a cost of that. It's called $5 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're true costs. So there's a cost to that. Then you have, okay, I need to get consumers in the door. I've just got distribution because I just committed to 332 doors month one out of the 7,000. So about 105 doors out of the 7,000 were about 5% to open
Mm-hmm.
up, right? Well, I'm going to support that with events. So I said, okay, why don't we do say 20% of those doors that we open up? So 32. So I'm going to do 32 tasting events at $50 an hour, minimum $3 an hour. It starts to add up. So that's
Mm-hmm.
like $5,000, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you can see
Mm-hmm.
how the number stacks up and adds up. Then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, okay, now I'm like, the first cut of this, I was over almost $200,000. I'm like, well, there's no way they're going to pay for $200,000 in the state of Texas. So I'm like, starting to do some quick math. We know that we'll open up a door, but we're not going to be in every door, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but in the day, I was looking at tastings, sampling events, cost of the person, incentives with the distributor. That's the stuff that's actually going to create and I haven't even talked about e-commerce out there, right? Or DTC.
Right.
That's where, Jeff and Brandon and others come in, Brandon Artica and Rogan Rye, they come in. But
Yep.
so my point is, I hope I answered the question is,
You did, yeah.
yeah, so I'll step back and I'll go ahead. Sorry. I'll have
No,
another.
you're fine. I think it was a great answer to the question. Cogs added full palette for promo samples only, mandatory just to start. And I think that's
Okay.
as part of that support cost, right? Or not the air
Hey,
quotes.
before,
Part of the
before I
support
forget,
cost.
hey, Robert, you should just dial in, send him the link, and have Robert join us. You're
Uh,
always welcome, brother. Sorry, go
so
ahead.
there's that, and then Jeff added, as we were talking, he said so 250,000, which is funny because you said it was over $200,000, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's the Ryan made a great point. I'm going to steal it, but I'll give him credit for it. So Ryan Howland again with Rocks. We were talking yesterday about some stuff we're
We
working
got to
on.
get a Rocks logo up here, by
Right.
the way. And you're now an official sponsor of the show. Just chime in and say you agree.
Right. He said something because we were talking about a brand that we're quoting some work for, and I'm going to try to paraphrase it concisely, but essentially it was our job as consultants or whatever you want to call it is to be advocates. And a lot of people assume that means one thing or another, right? That word, advocating on the brand's behalf means one thing or another. What I'm getting at is, yes, it does mean what people assume it means, which is like, I'm going to go speak on your behalf to distributors, to co-packers, to vendors to advocate for better pricing or better terms or whatever. It does mean that. It also means I'm going to advocate for you not to be a dipshit with your money. I'm going to advocate for you to spend effectively. I'm going to advocate for the other, if I'm working like with Ryan and I, we're working together and he comes in with pricing for something, and I'm like, to your point, Sam, I'm like, hey man, I'm not saying your pricing's bad or wrong or anything like that, but they just don't have it, right? So to parallel that to your example, like, okay, 200 grand, they don't have 200 grand. All right, can we reduce the number of doors? Can we reduce the overall footprint? Can we reduce, like, there's still a value that can be given, but we've just got to advocate for what that kind of most focused opportunity is with the brand across all of those different kind of levels, right?
Yeah, it's just part of your business plan. And as I was developing the budget, which Alicia is brilliant at it, and she sent me several examples, and I was just sitting there scratching my head yesterday and saying, okay, how do I pull this together just to make it? Because you have to game it. You have to gamify. You have to basically look at
Mm-hmm.
how much money do you have in order to support what you want to do. And if there's 7,000 doors, I guarantee you most people that are starting out cannot go open up 7,000 doors.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, most people I talk to, like I talk to people, they've been around for 2 years in Tennessee. It's a pretty cool whiskey. I will name nameless that we're talking to. And I'm like, how many doors have you opened up? He said 15. 15 doors in 2 years. I actually think it's pretty good. I think, like, because he has the 15 right doors. Now he knows
Sure.
I have to go beyond 15. I need to go to 30, and that's why I need your services to help me go do that. And they
So
also
let's
got to the point where they had the resources. They didn't have the resources to go open up 100 doors.
No, 100%. So I love that you brought that up, and I think 15 is a phenomenal number because most people, myself included, as you saw on my face, hear 15 over 2 years and go, damn, that's not a big number, right?
Yeah.
But the follow-up question that I have to that, even if just for myself, is how many units or cases are they moving a week or a month in those 15 stores? Because I'm guessing that number is a little higher than most people would think.
Right, exactly. And that's the question that we asked. I'm like, how many
Mm-hmm.
units are you selling per week? What's your reorder rates? And out of
Mm-hmm.
the 15, he said 10 of the 15 are really good customers. And I said, what are you doing with the other five? Let them go. Because if you're just if you're just a bottle on a shelf collecting dust or on a back bar, don't be
Mm-hmm.
there.
Sure.
We were talking to, and I actually called out Sukasa Mescal. The guy's brilliant, and he actually told us, and at least I don't remember this, but he said, if a person will not put me on their menu and give me a drink feature, I don't want them to take me in distribution.
Sure.
And he said, I give them a reason to put me on the menu and to put me on the drink feature. But I think that's brilliant. Why would you want to be in an account just to be in the account? That's just, I mean, that's like, what's the saying? You're basically, you're an empty suit sitting on it. You're nothing. You're just a brand that's just going to disappear
Yeah.
within the next reset because no action is going to happen. So I would suffice to say, go back to this question we asked earlier is, how much does it take to actually activate your brand? Because I will tell you, I think it's $500,000 up. Just the raw truth. Now, if brand's done it differently, sure they have. But if you don't have $500,000, I had a person tell us, Alicia, maybe you're on this call too. We were talking to him, and just a cool tequila out of Colorado, or named nameless. But we're talking like he's in another cash raise of $20 million. $20 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's where you go open up 7,000 doors. That's where you have the resources to support because you remember all the stuff we went through. You got to do a tasting, an activation, a sample, a salesperson incentive. Maybe there's a bar spin. There's an event that you do. There's a whole bunch of stuff to unwrap in that. Now you obviously don't have to do for all 7,000 places, but I would rather see him spend. If you have $100,000, spend it in the stores that are actually going to create the pool for your product. Don't spend it in the stores that are not going to create the pool for your product. If they're not going to support you, don't take your product there.
No, I think I mean, again, I think it's another phenomenal point made of people here, and again, myself included, like we all fall victim to this, right? We watch the news, we watch TV, we watch shows, whatever, and we hear, $5 million, $10 million, and it's such a fantastical, otherworldly number for most people that
Right.
they're like, oh, that's infinite. That will last me till forever, right?
Yeah.
And so when you put the question to it of, well, okay, let's call it $20 million, how many markets should you go open with $20 million? Markets, not states,
Yeah.
not distributors, just markets in general. 3?
Say
5?
the question. Ask the question again. I missed the question.
If you had $20 million, how many markets should you go open? The
I would
point I'm
say,
getting at is,
I mean, it's funny. Everybody wants to go into Illinois, Texas, California, and New York.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're at the stage where you're getting 20 million. You've probably opened up several markets to be fair to those brands out there.
Sure, totally.
But I would be, if you look at it, we need to get Adam somehow. If he ever catches our episode, Adam Krenner from Carbless.
Mm.
I
Carbless,
mean,
yeah.
he is the guy, that company and how they've built it. They built it one market at a time, one account at a time,
Hmm.
one
Hmm.
ambassador at a time, one sampling at a time. And he still does it that way. And he's like the
Hmm.
second best performing RTD in North America right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
So to answer your
100%.
question, I would ask Adam that question and others, but I think it's a handful. It's probably two. It's 1 to 5, is where you want to
Yeah.
open up and do it right. So, like if you're going to come in the U.S., depending on your brand, we have some Indian brands, right? So what Alicia has done, she's like, we're going to bring it into places where people have a propensity to buy those type of products, right?
Hmm.
There's a beer company we work with, and it's an Irish beer, and they're focusing only on Irish markets.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, they were starting to find themselves expanding out really quickly. And one of the president of the company told us, he said, you know what? We don't want to be in California or Arizona because they're not high Irish bar
Hmm.
pub populations. We need to be
Hmm.
in Boston, New
Hmm.
York,
Chicago.
Illinois, Maryland, like the Northeast, where you're going to have greater success and impact. But there'll be a point where there's a tipping point, just like G4. There'll be a point where you can go for mass distribution, but so many people try to expand too quickly. A little bit. We should go
Sure.
through the questions. We have 5 minutes left. We can go a little longer, but do you want to go through the statements here on the thing, by the way?
Yes, yes, we're caught up on most of them. So, uh, Cokes, I'll get to your question here in just a second because I've been keeping an eye on it. But, Jeff said advocating for a brand sometimes means telling them that their baby is ugly. Slow and steady is the way to go.
Yeah.
Um, Jeff again said, I would think that you could start in a local market where you could build relationships easier. Um, Koch said, for example, in Toronto, 20 to 27.5 million CDN. I'm a little uninitiated. I'm not sure what CDN means. Maybe you do, Sam.
No. So let us know.
Koch,
I feel
let us
like I
know
should know
what
that.
CDN means. This will be an alphabet soup learning lesson for me today. But his question was, what did he say? Isn't UNFI a pass through?
I don't think that's
No.
I mean, I guess you
No.
could argue the fact is it could be for sure because if you're getting in distribution in a massive chain and you're shipping from their warehouse to their warehouse and it's going into stores and the salesperson's not touching it, yeah, it is
Sure.
in a way. But it depends. I think in the context of what the supplier is they're dealing with. But yeah, I think that
Hmm.
could be definitely qualify as that.
Sure.
Alicia, just so I forget, if you put a boot on the ground with a
Hmm.
pass through, a brand can sell a case tomorrow.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's her comment, some of the stuff you just said, like that's why I asked the question of the hypothetical, right?
Yeah.
Of $20 million, how many markets is that? Because I think a lot of speaking for myself again, right? Like a lot of the brands I talk to, I'll go, how much do you have? And usually the answer ranges from in total for everything, not just
Yeah.
sales and feet on the street, but for all of it. The answers would be anywhere from, hey, I know I'm super green, I still don't even have a formula. I've got 50 grand to, hey, rich uncle investors, whatever the story is, I've got a few hundred grand, right?
Yeah.
And they'll say things like, yeah, I want to go open up 2 markets. I want to go open up 3 markets, or I want to do a market plus e-commerce. I'm like, that's fine. We can talk about that. Like that is a reference point from which to start the conversation. So I'm not saying that you're an idiot for thinking that way.
Right.
But what you have to understand is you could tell me you had $20 million, and I would tell you at most 1 to 5 markets.
Yeah.
So use that to gauge your response to what you just told me and adjust accordingly. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Um, CD. Oh, CDN dollars, money.
Oh.
Apparently, that's the shorthand for dollars in Canada. Tells me
Yeah.
I've never been to Canada. Oh, that's funny. Thank you, Kogs. Koresh brought up something here in kind of our private chat, and I think there's a couple examples of it in the beer world. Lion and Kugel's Spotted Cow, Yingling. God, what's another good one? Those are the top three that come to mind. But the beer brands and I said this to Bree the other day, but beer brands who've made it a case study in sticking to a specific state or a specific region of the country, and people being like hyper fans, super fans of
Mhm.
that brand who will travel there either specifically to get that product or who, when they travel there for other reasons, will make it a point to take some with them when they leave, right?
Mhm. Well,
Um,
Coors was that way.
were they?
Course. Yeah, you
Really?
couldn't get it. You east of the Mississippi, you couldn't get Coors.
I never knew that.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm learning so much today.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, so the comment I made to Bree was, and who knows, maybe this will happen, maybe it won't, but I could see it being a case over the next 5, 10, 15 years where yes, e-commerce, nationwide to some extent will be a thing, but where I could see it being something where like XYZ energy drink or whatever THC beverage is, and legal stuff aside, I purely just mean from a brand planning perspective. Like, oh, I really love this pineapple THC beverage. I can only get it in Pennsylvania, right? But it becomes known just like Spotted Cow for Wisconsin. It becomes known in whatever state, right? I don't think we have a
Nico,
ton of that now, but I think it's growing every day.
Nico. Again, Nico's getting a lot of time in my brain today. But Nico, the reason he wants to go to Florida in the winter, you know why? Because all the people that buy his product in New Jersey are going to Florida in the
Oh,
winter. And they're looking for it
yeah,
in Florida. He's like, they're already coming here. I
right,
have an established brand up here. They're already
right,
down here. They already know who I am. So
yeah,
I'm here to go get my brand to them. So that's his pitch.
brilliant, yeah,
And he goes into, by the way, this young man, he walked into Publix and he walked into ABC without an appointment. That's another thing is you need to have the business
savvy,
courage, the
yeah,
savvy to actually go do it. And he's really clear on his message with Copa and what it brings because he already has. It's like I already have all the people. 50% of the people that buy my brand are going to be here from November to May, and that's why you need to put it into distribution. And my velocity is 8 cases a week.
sure,
So that's part of the
well,
sell story, right? So,
yeah.
um,
But
you
again, I
know,
mean, I think even that, right? And I'll
yeah,
I'll pick on it here in the moment. You just said November to May, right?
yeah,
So my
yeah,
guess, and I'm not saying I'm right, but my
yeah,
guess is if you were to look at his advertising, his sales, his whatever
yeah.
front facing budget you want to say, is that the dollars he spends in Florida will be higher from November to May than it will for the rest of the year for obvious reasons,
Right.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Florida is a seasonal market,
yeah,
right? But
yeah,
it's also like I've built my brand in the Northeast in Jersey, and I know that a percentage of those people are going to go down looking for my brand down there, and
yeah,
it's really good. So he's very
yeah,
calculated about what he's
totally.
doing. He has a path, and I would argue that that's an inch wide, mile deep. And then he'll pull out of Florida because, the only time you would spend money in Florida in the summer is to actually position yourself for the fall. Like, and this is what people say. Look, the reason you're going to pay our reps, boots on the ground in Florida in the summer, is because we're going to actually seed you for the fall,
Sure,
and we're also going to try to maintain the locals,
right.
in terms of driving some business. But there's a big drop off, right? So
Sure.
part of this launching brands is know your market,
Hmm.
but and know that how it works because not all markets are the same. And
Hmm.
I would argue that's across all brands and all categories and
Hmm.
all types.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the whole
Yeah, I mean,
bit.
I
So
think it's, having lived there and having worked with brands who are obviously either been there, are there, trying to be there, Vegas is the other low hanging fruit of this story, right? Like
yeah,
massive tourism influx depending on the time of year, trade shows, summer, pool, whatever, right? But I've heard brands, go through the like, oh, I'm going to get into this hotel or I'm going to be at this event. Like, okay, if you're not already ingratiated with the locals and you're not already ingratiated with the people who are coming in from out of town, who the fuck are you selling it to? Right? Like
yeah,
somebody has to know you exist before they get there and see you. Now, don't get me wrong, you're still going to get some
yeah,
sales, right? Um, but yeah, it's a really interesting point. It's not something I
Yeah.
considered before.
Yeah, there's a little bit of media with everything in terms of how you would promote a particular event. We have a cool NA product which I have to have you over. We'll try it together. I got 2 bottles, so I'll save a bottle for you. But it's a
Sure.
champagne, and they sent us a message last night about this big event they're going to have in New York, and we're going to put it on our website and stuff, which was really good. So I think there's a little bit of hype behind a partnership, with the brand and stuff as they come out, right? I would tell you, like I told our partner, one of our partners is $350 mezcal. I said our goal is to get 10 accounts in Los Angeles. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Just get me 10 accounts.
Mm-hmm.
We have another brand. It's a high end bourbon owned by some restaurateurs and Jill Lawton. Thank you, Jill, if you ever catch one of these episodes. But the goal of that is to get into high end, what do you call the James Beard type style
Mm-hmm. Restaurant. Yeah,
restaurants.
sure.
That type of consumer is going to go in there and they're probably going to pay $40 for a cocktail or $35, right? So the
Sure.
point is they're going to go in the right places. I would tell you that from a boot on the ground, the biggest thing we can do is really there's 4 things they can do. One is communicate. Communicate to your supplier. I don't care what broker out there in North America. Communicate with your supplier what you're doing, and communicate these 3 things. Right? I'm gonna give you the answer to the test. Who'd you call on? Who'd you talk to? And what the outcome was.
Mm-hmm.
So if you communicate to that supplier, who'd you call on? Who'd you talk to? And what the outcome was, you're going to be just fine because there's not going to be any mistake about what's happening in terms of brand. Now you have to get results.
Sure.
You have to sell boxes, as Alicia would say. You got to go sell a box. If you're not selling boxes, then
Right.
you're doing yourself a disservice and that client a disservice. So go sell
Sure.
some boxes and communicate.
So we started late. We're a few minutes over.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, and I mean, I've learned stuff today. I think Jeff and Robert and Alicia and everybody in the comments. I think we've gotten a lot of really good feedback specific to what we've been discussing. So maybe putting on your brand or your supplier hat, not what is, but what should be the difference between success and failure. Right? Yeah. This one's for you.
Oh. Okay. So that's the question.
Yeah, that's the
Putting my
question.
brand hat on,
Mm-hmm.
what is
Like
the
if
difference?
if I
As a
was coming to you as a
supplier.
brand and I was coming to you as a brand and I wanted you and Alicia to do work with me and I said, all right, within the framework of this agreement we're setting up and whatever it looks like, what should my barometer as the brand be for the work you're doing between success and failure?
As a brand owner, if I was coming to Alicia and myself or any other people that do this type of service in
Mm-hmm.
this space,
Yep.
is success to me would be that I found a broker that communicated with me and was authentic
Okay.
and shared with me what they were doing on behalf of my brand. And it's those 3 things. Who are they talking to? What accounts are they pitching my brand to? And what the outcomes are. So the other thing is they would actually be selling a box,
Mm-hmm.
and if they weren't, they would step back and say, "Hey, look, I'm not the right stop." So they'd actually tell me that I'm not the right stop, that I can't do it at some point. They wouldn't just try to hang on to me because they just wanted money from me. And that's what I love about Alicia is she deposits a paycheck with a conscience, because we have those conversations and we have those hard conversations with brands.
Sure.
So that's success. Failure is just not communicating. Failure is passing the blame and the buck. So if I have a partner that they're blaming me, they're blaming the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not like being solution oriented and being proactive with me, then that in my mind they failed me.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm a supplier, so that in my mind they failed me. And look, but I think that can be turned around. Like we've had hard conversations. I think that can be turned around. Another failure is not having the conversation, and that's on both sides.
Sure.
That's on the supplier side and the broker side. If you're not willing to have the conversation, and I'm saying live conversation, not on email, by the way, because there's a lot of people that hide behind the keyboards.
Sure.
Get out behind your keyboard and have the conversation. If you're not satisfied if I'm not satisfied with the broker services, then I need to tell them what I'm not happy about.
Yeah.
And we need to get an alignment on developing some action steps. Too many people, failure is just firing me or firing the broker before you even give them a chance.
So I'm so glad you said that, because here's my follow-up question to that. Specific to the communication expectations, right?
Yeah.
Because I've gotten a couple calls about this from just folks I know who are like, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" Like, I'm not the person for this conversation, but sure. They'll say things like, "I'm not getting the communication I want." I'll put it that way, from the broker, the distributor, whomever, the retailer, whatever it is,
Mhm.
right? So, from your perspective, from somebody who's lived it, who's talked to those folks, who knows what they go through on a daily basis, you know, does good communication look like, you know, monthly reporting? Does it look like a weekly check-in? Does it look like a you know, bi-weekly Teams call? Like, what does, I agree with you, for any partner, success is in quality communication, almost beyond anything
Mhm.
else, right? But specific to this brokerage distribution conversation we've been having today, what does that look like? Because the reason I ask is I think a lot of brands go, well, they don't send me daily reporting. Like, okay, no shit. Like, I don't talk to my family daily. Like, give me a break, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
I think it depends on the situation, but it's all of that in what you said.
Okay.
Okay, so depending on the brand, if you're early on in the brand, you just taking them on, I
Mm-hmm.
would say a weekly check-in is appropriate
Okay.
as you're launching, right? To make sure
Okay.
you got your samples in hand, that people know the price, do they know the target accounts they're going to,
Mm-hmm.
and then to build some comfortability. I had a client say, look, I just want to give it a couple weeks before I activate you guys in the next market to see how it's going the first couple weeks, right?
Okay.
So I think that's where you have the weekly check-ins. Around reporting, this is a question that Alicia and I are trying to answer, and we've had our conversations with our clients. So I start off with this like fancy SaaS software, put an app on everybody's phone, and they're keying in. Guess what? I stopped doing it because it meant nothing. It was just basically became a task, not a tool for the reps. So
Sure.
reporting is important, but I think it's those three things I talked about.
Sure.
Is keep it really simple, and this is Alicia speaking through me, is this who'd you call on, who'd you talk to, and what the outcome was. If you can do that in the communication, that can be weekly, that can be bi-weekly, it can be monthly.
Sure.
But most important thing of that, if they want an answer about what happened this week, you should be responsive as a broker back to that supplier. But the
Sure.
supplier should be courtesy enough to understand that it takes time to build things. Remember
Mm-hmm.
how long it took to be how long did it take to build Tito's?
Sure.
A
10 years
decade.
plus? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so be patient, but I don't think that patience doesn't mean that you have to pay for non-performance either,
Sure.
right? I
Sure.
mean, you have to
Yeah.
see some movement. One of the guys we talked to that I love him to death, is out of Chicago, but he's like, look, I just want a case sold, like, and tell me what's happening. And he's very patient, but at some point, does patience does run thin a little bit.
Yeah.
But I hope I answered the question. It's just I think reporting and communication. I think it's variable based on timing
Mm-hmm.
and based on performance. If things are going really well, look, every selling boxes solves problems. David Lockheed, president of Breakthrough or EVP of Breakthrough Chicago, told me, he said, selling boxes solves all problems.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Winning solves everything, of course.
Yeah, they're not going to call no supply. If you're selling boxes and you're opening up accounts, they don't care about the reporting.
Right. Right.
It's when you're not performing is when they're starting to ask about the reporting.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. No, I think the you said a lot of really useful things there, but one of the things I liked is, you know, patience. But patience doesn't, as I'm paraphrasing, but patience doesn't mean silence, right?
Yeah.
You can be patient in results while still being expectant of consistent communication,
Oh yeah.
right?
And performance. John Martin told me this, Alicia. He goes, I'm patient, but I'm not a charity. And what he
Sure.
means, I'm paying for
Yeah.
something here. So tell me what you've done for me. And that's something we're working through our partners across North America. We're trying to come up with some type of, solution that actually helps open up that communication. Communication is so important when you have a brand, but also Mike Levinson, at some point, or I guess Jeff, I'll quote you, at some point, if the baby's not performing, you have to tell them the baby's ugly. But in order to do that, you have to have the data to support your comments. Because I had someone tell one of our founders that the price was too expensive. And I had the conversation with the founder yesterday, and he goes, he just told you that? Yeah. He goes, yeah, it's too expensive. But he goes, what's strange is I went out in the market and sold 10 accounts, and no one told me my price was too expensive. So you should never offer opinions, offer fact.
Sure.
I mean, okay, who'd you talk to and what did they say? That's the outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Tell me who you talked to. I'll go talk to them as well.
Yeah.
If you're telling me my price is too expensive, prove it.
100%. No, I think there's, and again, every industry struggles with this, right? But I think there's a lot of, because there are so many variables, I think there's a lot of like, oh, this price is too expensive, this lead time's too long, this person's not doing something. And all those things, experientially speaking, right? So in terms of what you individually experience in that moment may be true, right? Yeah. But because we have so much going on, you get this blanket, oh, that's a bad price. Well, that's not the whole story, right? And that applies to a bunch of different realms, right? So we'll wrap it up. Phenomenal answer to the question. And I learned a lot today. I think everybody else enjoyed it. We had a few more comments from Jeff, David, and Alicia. So Jeff said, failure happens when expectations are not agreed upon by both parties prior to engagement. Absolutely. He also said data is only beneficial if it is understood and translated into understandable language and then acted upon to achieve improvements. Again, the number of times that all of us who are talking and listening and everybody, oh, those numbers are bad. Are they? Or do you just not understand them, right? Or they're good. That's the worst one, right? Oh, these numbers are great. Are they? I don't know if that's true. David, that's either Petri or Petrie. Welcome. I think you're the first person in a while that I've seen on here that I wasn't connected with, so there's an invite coming your way.
Yeah, it's
good. Alicia said, so David said great stuff. Alicia said you need water. You need to water a plant. You need to water your brands. Communication is key, 100%. Brad, good morning, Mr. Berg. Also, you updated your picture. It looks so professional. There has to be, right? He said there has to be a level of accountability on both parties, good, better, indifferent. Live communication often addresses a lot of that, 100%. And then Koch said, my best line to help people understand patience, Spain took 800 years to complete the Reconquista. Which is, if you ever get a chance to go, Bree and I went to Barcelona for our honeymoon, and they're still working on churches that have been, for like 1,000 years. Like they're still finishing them. It's a phenomenal point is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's amazing. Correct. Did we miss anything today? I know they can't hear you, but what's going on? You're muted if you're talking. Oh, can't. She's working on unmuting, but no, great. Thank you, Adam, for the closing thoughts. I thought this was a really good discussion today. So a lot for me to go on a walk to actually do some soul searching. And thanks everybody for joining us on Drink Up. If you ever want to come in and be part of the episode, please reach out for us. I guess we should start promoting where they should reach out to us. Maybe we should have an email where they could actually, like a Drink Up or something, a podcast. So we'll work on that. We have, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, as well as LinkedIn. And have a great Saturday, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.